Hi guys, I'm Tiffany Ashton, Director of Operations at ClinEssentials. I am here with Alina in the beautiful Zurich, Switzerland.
Hello, nice to meet you, Tiffany.
Nice to
Glad
meet you as
to glad
well.
to see you and meet you
I
in
know,
person.
I know. We connected on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and so I said I was coming to finish our series, Clinical Researchers Around the World, and I was stopping in Zurich, so I wanted to reach out to a colleague here.
In one of
Um,
the most beautiful countries in the world, I am biased. I'm
yes,
biased as a
yes.
country of the cantons, but I'm completely in love with the country.
Yes, I mean, I've only been here a couple hours and I only have a couple hours for my layover, but I'm excited that we got out and we'll be able to see and speak with you and then also maybe taste some local,
Local food and beverages.
yes, local cuisine here at the cafe. How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Odeon. Odeon
Odeon.
Zurich.
I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the clinical research industry. In July, it'll be 20 years. And so
Great journey.
yes, a great journey. And I started off as a clinical research coordinator, working with the investigators and the patients directly for about 4 years. And then I went to be a CRA, clinical research associate. And then about 10 years ago, I transitioned into the clinical trial manager space.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I like the clinical trial manager space, directing and running the entire study, working with the CRAs and the CRCs and PIs.
Yeah.
So I've worked on global studies, phase 1 through 4, in oncology, rare disease, CNS, gene therapy, so a lot of different
Great
indications.
portfolio.
Yes, yes. And so, yes, so I am now the director of operations at ClinEssentials. And so not only do we do a training, but we do the career services. I also do YouTube videos for like training purposes. So for like CRAs, how to pack their monitoring visit bag or how to review a protocol.
Very interesting. I have to look for the channel. I have to subscribe. It's very interesting.
Yes, yes. So just little tips.
Day-to-day basis
Day-
to help, not necessarily a curriculum, but really practical
Yes.
tips.
Yes. So how to organize your Outlook inbox for clinical. We get so many emails and
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh yeah, but I think this is really practical. Back in the times when I started,
Yes.
it's so much dependent if you had any colleague in the company willing to support and able to support because everybody was so busy and
Yes.
traveling so much
Yes.
and having so many projects on like in parallel. So it wasn't necessarily about the ability, but like capacity to actually take over and train you and give you some tips, on how to do practically some
Yes, yes. So that's just a little bit about my journey. How did you get started in clinical research yourself?
Well, back in times I was living in Romania. I'm a Romanian citizen now living in Switzerland, but I'm a dentist by education, so I studied dentistry. And my first meeting with clinical research field was back in 2014. So I knew a little bit about these projects as a student, but I didn't know exactly, I didn't have an in-depth view of what it means actually in detail to perform clinical research. And there were so many titles and so many jobs I didn't know. So I got an entry-level position as a clinical trial assistant, so basically a very administrative job.
Yes.
It was at the beginning part-time because I was also trying back then to still pursue my career
Yes.
as a dentist in the clinic. And then I liked it so much, and I realized I probably realized back then what I didn't know how to say it in words, that I'm much better using my knowledge
Yes.
and my intellectual capacity than necessarily my hands, practical stuff. And I switched to full time, and I was a clinical trial assistant. I was working in CROs back then, fully immersed in the oncology and hematology project. I think I only had a partial involvement in some psychiatric studies to perform what was called in the past, like full ETMF review,
Yes.
preparation for audits. And I had studies with paper CRF, with the CRF. I was involved in so many projects at the same time. And then, of course, I switched to CRA, and I also had, I had both positions, also field clinical research associate, but also in-house.
Oh, yes.
So I got to see both roles, what it means and which are the differences, except for the traveling part. Of course, this I knew. And I think it was in 2016 when I started to read some, I was performing some online trainings on LinkedIn and looking in depth into the GCP, and I realized that there are documentations mentioning about dental studies. And I said, oh wow, there is actually clinical research in dentistry, and I had no clue back then. I knew about all the companies that are innovating products. I should not say names, but we all know, about toothpaste, toothbrushes,
Yes,
products. I knew
yes.
about the companies which are bringing products on the market, and I knew it's something completely different than a molecule and a drug,
Yes.
for an oncologic disease, but I didn't know where exactly can I find R&D and
Yeah.
if there are clinical research positions. So I started to look on jobs on internet.
Uh-huh.
So coming back to the journey, I found this incredible job advertisement on internet, and I applied.
Uh-huh.
And the interview process was successful, and this is how in 2017
Uh-huh.
I changed completely not only the job but also aspects of my life, because I relocated from Romania to Switzerland. And I'm now working at a medical device company, which is also a manufacturer. So we are producing dental implants, we put them on the market, and not only, also components for implant restoration. So this is all related to dental treatment,
Yes.
softwares for the clinic, and other other materials. And I'm working in a clinical affairs department. This is how we connected on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I started also as a clinical research associate. This was the job that I had back then in the CRO. So this is how I transitioned as a CRA to the medtech field, which was a challenge because I had to learn the new regulations, the new standards. It's a different, the way you conduct the studies basically is the same, but what happens in the background is different.
Yes.
It's not a molecule, it's a medical device. You have pre and post-market clinical studies. It's a different mindset you have to get in the end. And then I was promoted to clinical trial manager. So
Oh,
now I'm also a
congratulations.
clinical project manager. And I'm responsible for all the stages of a clinical study, from the very beginning, budget and resource allocation, to also data analysis. We do this in-house. So
Yes.
these are skills that I had to develop and learn.
Wow.
Clinical report writing.
Yes.
And then I collaborate with the scientific affairs, who is writing the manuscript on top of the publication.
Okay. Wow.
And there are many functions that we do in-house. The big difference, compared to a project, the clinical study in pharmacology, is that we in-house, we are responsible for all the stages.
Yes.
And we do the work. We may have some CRAs who are delegated on the study, but we have 99% of the functions in-house.
Wow.
And we perform all the tasks. So we don't have to coordinate. We have the communication with the clinical sites.
Yes.
But they don't have to coordinate an international team of CRAs
Yes.
working on the site.
Yes.
So it's a different size project, much smaller, and most of the functions are in-house, which also helps us have a very clear, up-to-date status of all at all stages.
Yes. Oh man, so much to unpack with your journey.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty amazing looking back.
Yes, it is. And when you tell your story, you're like, wow, I really accomplished a lot over the
I learned a
years.
lot. I have to say, when I joined the company, there were areas where my skills were very limited, and I really had to challenge myself and learn areas that I never thought I would actually.
Yes. And how did you do that? How did you do on LinkedIn, colleagues? How did you?
Well, at the beginning, especially for data analysis, I think I relied a lot on the colleague support.
Yes.
So it was a lot of in-house training, FAQ materials that I could access.
Yes.
And hands-on.
Yeah, hands-on.
Learn and try and
Yes.
see where you're stuck, and ask.
Yes.
And I'm very lucky to say that we have a very, very open, team-oriented department. And we jump in, all of us, when somebody needs help.
Yes. From what I understand, you work more so with like a small, like a sponsor versus a CRO currently.
We are the sponsor.
Yes, you are the
Definitely,
sponsor.
we are sponsoring our own studies. We
Good.
also collaborate with investigators worldwide when they have ideas.
Yes.
And then we offer a grant.
Yes.
And then, of course, the study has a different setup.
Yes.
And we don't act like sponsors, but yes.
Yes, those are we call them in the U.S. the investigator-initiated trials.
It's exactly the name of the
Exactly.
house.
Yes. Okay. So this is okay. This
Common
is great.
language.
Yes, same
Common
language,
language.
the common language. Just to break it down a little bit for those listening in. So currently with the sponsor company, not working with the CRO, keeping everything in-house so they have a good oversight of everything. Also, there are investigators who may want to use their products and they can do investigator-initiated trials there. So this is a new perspective because I know a lot of our listeners, you are familiar with the CRO aspects, the big CROs. Do you guys have big CROs here in Zurich?
Oh, definitely. I think in Zurich and in Basel there are CROs, or there may be European CROs which have an office here. But definitely, there are for sure.
Yes,
For sure.
the icons, the IQVIAs, the par excels,
Yes,
the
they are.
PPDs. Yes, yes.
They definitely, I don't know, I don't want to make a mistake if they are based as a headquarter in Switzerland, but they for sure have an office.
Yes. Okay. So see there, so they choose to keep everything in house, which they have a closer management, but it also gives Alina here the chance to see how everything is done, working with a lot of different departments and data analysis and things that maybe at a CRO you wouldn't be involved in. But
Exactly.
because,
That was the big, one of the main differences I spotted when I came here, because back in times when I was a CRA in a CRO, I was very well trained on my little piece how to do the clinical research associate job. I was working in parallel on several projects, so I had to learn to follow SOP from different sponsors, which, as we all know, they can differ.
Yes.
Because the regulation tells you what you have to do, not how to do things. So each sponsor has the freedom to ask for different things. So I was very well trained on quality verification and monitoring tasks and reporting and how to communicate to the sponsor or to the CTM in back in times. Whereas here, I had a chance to really learn from the very early stage what does it mean to design a protocol.
Yes.
Which, of course, back then in the CRO, I didn't have the experience because I was receiving the protocol directly made,
Exactly.
written and all the amendments. Where here we are responsible for everything, and we need to have a large picture in mind.
Yes.
When we design, which are the endpoints, what we aim to show, and everything, financial side, communication with the sites, feasibility, selecting new sites.
Yes.
Everything. Of course, we have services that we may outsource in the sense that we collaborate with vendors, like evaluation of specific files or the ECR database. That's not something that we produce per se. We need to use specific databases, but all the rest of the services, they are for clinical trial management, they are in-house.
Yes, yes. And so I know in the US and those that are associated with the CROs, a lot of times they are the CRA and then they want to either get off the road and transition to the clinical trial management, but they, like you mentioned, only know that CRA aspect. But as a CTM, there's so many things. And so a lot of CRAs that we see that get into CTM, they're lost or they're overwhelmed because they don't have the support that you have, and you had at your company, and everyone gave the advice and showed. They're more so in silo, so they're like, plan a protocol.
I can totally understand. I can totally understand.
Yes.
Let's not forget the complexity of a study in phase 2 or 3.
Yes.
One of these big areas that I mentioned: oncology, hematology, rare diseases, and and others. Also diabetes, why not? Where you can have a multi-center study, where a multi-center means managing 30 to 40 sites across a wide region, either in US or maybe you have Europe and Middle East, I don't know, depending on the structure.
Yes.
How each sponsor or how each CRO can allocate CTMs. And we are talking about the language barrier sometimes, we are talking about the cultural differences, time zone differences.
Yes.
And then the budget aspect and how to manage so many CRAs, and it's I can totally understand. It's much more complex.
Yes. Yes.
Also because of the size of the project. But I remember in one of the CROs I was working with, they had a very interesting program that I loved it. It was called this similar to a mentorship program, and you were allowed to. So there was a list of people interested to be mentors, and they were already mentors, and they had some time a month allocated just for mentoring.
That's nice.
And I collaborated very well with, I think she was a CRA back transitioning to a CPA, because she was quite late in the career, and she wanted to have less and less
Responsibilities.
tasks and
Yes.
responsibilities, but she still wanted to work. She was based in Israel, and she gave me such a wonderful insight into other areas of the job, because as a CTA, I was just doing the same things like a little mouse, every day the same tasks, and I
Yeah.
had to just print, scan, ship, unpack, pack, label, unlabel, doing from time to time ETMF reviews, which you had to deal with reports. But she actually helped me, being a CRA in-house and on the field CRA, and then CTA. She helped me have a different view. And I think this is a service that the great companies should implement,
Yes.
allocate. Maybe not everybody wants to be a mentor or
Yes.
has a time
Yes.
to allocate, and has a maybe also emotional flexibility to
Yes.
explain things to somebody else. But maybe there is a, I don't know, handful of people across the company
Yes.
who would love to do this.
Exactly.
10% of their time.
Yeah.
And this way it doesn't have to be a day-to-day training on your job, but it can also be a person working in a completely different position, and you can learn about that.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's amazing. And, that was one of the reasons why we developed the clinical trial manager training program, because we found a lot of either those that want to be CTM, so they're senior CRAs and they're scared, apprehensive about what to expect, they want to prepare, or those that were kind of thrown in to be a CTM and they're like, oh, I'm underwater, too many responsibilities. So we take them from study startup all the way through study closeout, as well as career recommendations, also talking about general considerations, working with global teams. So we act as their mentor in that program. And it's a 6-week program.
Fully online, or
So yes, it is fully online. So there's 5 live Zoom live sessions with me for 2.5 hours, and we go through practical activities. So maybe like a kickoff meeting agenda we'll create, our plan and investigators meeting, our review monitoring visit reports. So we go through the tasks that the CTM would have to do, invoice review, working with the sponsor. And so we walk them through and they get to ask questions. They get to pick out what's wrong on this invoice in a safe space, where then they don't have to worry about, oh, I'm bothering my colleague too much with, little questions. And, they may be nervous to ask different things like that. So that is like our mentoring program for those companies that don't have the support for those in the CTM space. So that's one of the things.
amazing. I find it amazing.
Thank you, thank you. So a couple of other items I wanted to jump into in their history. So one of the items that we have a free guide for those that want to transition into the CTM space. And so in that guide, we highlight some key positions, and you held those positions: the clinical trial assistant, the in-house CRA, the traveling CRA or field CRA.
Yeah.
These are all the stepping stones to get to the CTM role, because you're learning along the way.
I'm very grateful now looking back that I started small,
Yes.
baby steps,
Yes.
part-time, and I really had the chance to
Learn, yes. So to those that are listening, that is one of the avenues, not the only avenue to get to CTM, but it is one avenue that you can go from CTA to in-house CRA to field CRA.
Definitely.
And for myself, I went from CRC to CRA to lead CRA to CTM. So I went a different path from like on the clinic side, but there's many paths that you can take.
I fully agree. Yeah, I think people should not be scared if they feel they are stuck in a position and they cannot progress further, because there is always a way to go to learn more.
Yes.
And then, it's possible. It may take a little bit longer time to understand some aspects,
Yes.
because you can never have 100% clear everything about a position the day you start.
Yes, yes.
So,
yes. And then I know a lot of people, I know in the US, they want to just get right into CTM as their first job in the industry. What would you say to that? It's not even possible from what I've seen on my side. Can you be a CTM directly in?
It's very difficult to give an answer without knowing, in detail the type of projects
Yes.
and the background of the person. But on a general level, I would say it's a rather a risky approach.
Yes.
Because you can be an excellent project manager Does mean this meaning, knowing how to manage a project from A to Z, budget-wise, resource planning, resource management. But if you have never ever been in touch with the clinical research field,
Yes.
and you don't understand basic notions of GCP, and you don't know how to prioritize tasks, um, meaning you don't know what it means. If somebody says I have an SAE and you don't know what it is, and the
Yes.
person, the CRA says I'm not available right now, I have a really serious adverse event to deal with,
Yes.
and you are bothering with something. This is just a very stupid maybe example.
No, it's a good
But if you have not been in touch with the clinical research field, either you have a very good local network support there in the office or in the company that you can base on, or you need to be aware you have to invest an amazing, an incredible amount of time learning something. Because
Yes.
clinical research, it may seem fancy and easy, but the more you dive in, the more you realize, oh my God, there is so much to understand and so much to, not so much to learn, but so much the dots that you have to connect.
Yes, yes.
And one thing that I spotted at a few people that I worked with, and they were CTA, but they had no clinical background. Fortunately, I am a dentist by background, by education, so I had this clinical education. They didn't know how to prioritize medical emergencies from other, I don't know, urgent tasks coming from other colleagues on other projects. And
Yes.
I used to always say, look, patient is first.
Yes.
We do this because we want to improve patient lives in the end, which is our goal.
Yes.
Why do we wake up in the morning, and why do we do what we do? Because you want to help collaborate to bringing something better on the market, and this something better is not a car, it's a medical product.
Yes.
So first you care about the patients. If I have an emergency at the site, I have to be there fully dedicated.
Yes.
To be in touch with the investigator. And these are small things that you may not be aware at the beginning. One thing that I maybe not like so much in our field is we have so many abbreviations, and we created not to files and SOP for every single little thing.
Yes.
And we lose the main task, out of our mind. So many abbreviations, you may feel lost.
Yes.
So to be a successful clinical trial manager, I think you do need some
Yes.
clinical research experience in the background. I really need.
Yes.
I really believe this.
Yes.
You can have excellent communication and project management skills, but you need to know what is research about.
Exactly. I agree. I totally agree.
Not meaning that I would like to discourage people from not applying to this position. But as I said, all the other factors they have to be present. Like you need to have a very strong training group, a local network there in the company that can really be ready to jump in and support you with things.
Yes.
Because you will have hundreds of questions at the beginning.
Yes.
Maybe in phase 4 projects, post-market
Yes.
studies,
Easier.
much easier projects, small scale, not a multi-center study with 30 sites across a big region. So it also depends of the project.
One of the and thank you, excellent insight. I love that we have so many things in common, and even though we're miles,
it's a big
miles
world,
and
but
miles
in the end, when you
Yes.
start talking, we realize that we actually know what we are talking about.
Exactly.
I love this about the field. It can be millions of kilometers apart, and
Yes.
then you have such we have a common language, and we can really understand each other.
Exactly. And another question that we get a lot, people want to get into the industry from different fields. So you coming from dentistry, but finding something that you can relate to with your background. I know someone recently, they were a physical therapist, and I said, there are physical therapy studies and, and devices and things that go along with your background. So similar to how you came in and got with a company that was making dental products, they could do something similar with their physical therapy, or if they're coming from a different, I was just trying to think if there's other careers that would easily transfer and at least give you that clinical bridge that you already have. I would say any even residents that are still in their training, their medical doctor training. I had them at sub-Is on our studies, on our phase 4 studies. So there's a lot of opportunities, even if they're coming from different medical fields.
Definitely.
Yes, to get in as well. And I too have worked with a medical device company in the past, and our products were more so, we had watches, like digital watches, the health watches, scales.
Monitoring devices.
Yeah, the monitoring devices, the scales. They even had toilet seats and how they would interact with, so there's a lot of different medical devices that you can, not only the pacemakers, but that's even a whole,
It's a whole range.
yes, a whole range outside of even the drug studies as well. So it's just amazing that we have so much opportunity in clinical research. And do you think that you would stay in this space, or would you want to be like director or anything like that?
I definitely see myself staying in clinical research. I had one or two requests, like not official interviews, but discussions to maybe move to different areas, and I said no. I said I'm a dentist by education, and I love being in contact with the clinicians, because this gives me the impression I'm more and more closer to the clinical side of the job.
Yes.
So this part of the clinical research is one of the aspects that I love the most, so I see myself staying here. I am pursuing an MBA at the moment, and it's an MBA in clinical research that I was very happy to find, because an MBA per se didn't seem too fancy for me, thinking, okay, which are my professional objectives for next 10, 15 years.
Yes.
But when I found this module of MBA in clinical research, I said, okay, this seems pretty interesting, so I'm gonna start this. And now that I'm studying and thinking, okay, how can I really leverage what I'm learning now, also financially, but also from the resource management perspective. And probably in the future I would like to have maybe a high-level management position. But it's I'm a strong believer in things happening naturally.
Yes, that's good.
At the moment I love what I'm doing, and there are the more studies I design, it's so complex to design a study, and I love this work at the very beginning, when you have to design the protocol and really brainstorm with the statistician and with the other departments, which is the best study design, and there is so much to learn here.
Yes.
That at the moment, I'm very happy with the position that I have.
Well, that's great. That's great. And I got my master's in clinical research at University of California, San Diego, so UCSD. And I liked it. My thesis was writing a protocol. Is that at the end of your program? Would you have to write a protocol?
There is a capstone project, but I don't know which is the request, because I'm only allowed to advance module by module, and each module has a sort of a task. So I did not finalize my MBA. I don't know exactly what my capstone project requires.
Okay.
Probably there will be a thesis involved. I don't know.
Yes.
But I'm very happy to hear. I mean, I know in the US there have been a lot of formal educational opportunities for clinical research people.
Yes.
Whereas back then, I'm talking about 2010, 2011, when I graduated the university, back then in Romania, to my knowledge, maybe I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, there was no official path to study anything related to clinical research.
Yes.
People entered through local network, through local recommendations, through job advertisings, and you used to learn.
Yes.
I think now there are a lot of, I don't know if formal educational masters given by the universities, but for sure there are private academies training people with a 3 months, 6 months course, and now we can have some certifications. But 10, 15 years ago, I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but I believe there was nothing really formal and official.
Yeah, same in the US. It's just now recently. I think I got my master's in 2009. And so that's when it was the first time that I had started to see the formal programs. But again, I fell into clinical research through my local network, someone suggesting it. And so that's how a lot of clinical research professionals, even in the US, get involved with clinical research, just by chance, just by someone saying, did you know about this? And you're like, no, I don't. Tell me more. And then they get involved.
And then they get involved.
Yeah.
And even now I have to say, whenever I tell to somebody that I'm working in clinical research, I think, without exaggerating, 8 out of 10 people, they're like, excuse me, what are you doing?
Yes, exactly.
Are you working in a lab? And I said, no, it's not a lab. That's actually the proper research. And I don't have a PhD, so I don't know exactly how to describe the research in the lab per se.
Yeah.
I said, these are clinical studies. And then I received either very funny questions or very weird questions, like, oh, sorry, are you making experiments? I said, no, wait, it's not like this. And when you start to go into detail, you realize that there is not so much broad
Yeah.
training on the topic. I mean, we,
Yes.
among us,
Yes.
we learn a lot and we
Yeah.
can train each other. But I'm talking about, the world out there.
Yes.
People who have maybe no connection with medical school, no connection, they're engineers or economists or architects. No offense, any other
Yes. They're just
profession
not
apart
aware.
from what could be, related or indirectly connected to clinical research. They are all surprised. What is this?
Yes.
What is this? What are you doing? Oh, sounds fancy.
Yes.
And I realized we should. I think the clinical research world, we are doing a super good job
Yes.
in promoting our work to investigators or to creating, networking opportunities among us. But we should really start to advocate more for this topic in a very lay language outside.
Yes.
That people know
Yes.
what is this.
Exactly.
And they don't get the wrong feeling that we are doing any kind of testing
Yes.
without knowing what we are doing, or
Yes.
without having the official permission. You know what I mean, So, as I said, I'm receiving a big number of questions, and people are still surprised. Okay,
Yes, even to this day, even myself in the U.S., I think just all worldwide, they're just not aware of our secret world that we're doing.
it's a niche. Yeah,
Yes.
it's still a niche.
Yes.
Although we have been, I have the feeling we have been expanding a lot, and in the last, thinking where I have started in 2013 and where we are now, 6 or 10 years later,
Yeah.
it's a huge expansion and development, and so many startups and so many private businesses appeared, and it's a huge development. But still, people outside our nation
Yeah, they don't know.
don't really know. Whereas, when you say I'm an architect, you may ask, okay, interior architect, interior design, other kind of buildings.
Yes.
But you kind of know what the job is about.
Yes.
When you say clinical studies, you're like,
Yeah, they do it all the time. Oh man. And even the families, just trying to explain it to your own family too, they don't even understand. But it's great. It's great. Any last, thank you so much, Alina, for meeting with you.
It's
It was
been
a great
great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's see. Anything else you want to say about clinical research or clinical research around the world?
Oh, I think we would need at least 3 days, to cover so many other topics. But I think, as a last word, I would say that, for anybody who doesn't know how to tackle the field, just don't be afraid about the complexity. Don't be afraid to start small.
Yes.
Just get in and start, and then you can really, really find something that you like, and you're gonna find the path to go further. And there are so many opportunities to develop, being on the clinic side as a coordinator as you started,
Yes.
being on the company side, on the industry side as a CRA or as a CPM, or going to the quality department, being an auditor, which is also extremely interesting.
Yes.
There are thousands of opportunities, so I would just say don't get afraid about all the abbreviations and about the big umbrella. Just start small.
Yes, get in, get in. Well, I love that. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. And we'll be sure to be back with the next clinical researcher around the world soon.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Great
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.